Cool. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Narik Chase channel. This is your boy Narik Chase, and we are doing something interesting today. I just recently watched Aquaman, and I wanted to do a review for it, but since I hadn't had time to actually do a full-on review for it, which I will do one, so look forward to those in a few days or day or two. But I wanted to go ahead and just tell you my thoughts. Look, guys, when I was watching it, I could not help but draw some comparisons between Aquaman and the 2011 Thor film. There are some ideas that I had concerning both of them, but I was like, you know what? Why not bring this into another episode of Head to Head where I can actually not compare, just simply compare the two characters themselves. I actually want to compare the first Thor film that came out in 2011 and this Aquaman film that just came out in 2018. So we're going to be not just doing we're not really doing the two characters, just the movies. And hopefully we are going to see a sequel to Aquaman, so I can possibly compare that one to Thor: Dark World. But we're getting ahead of ourselves now, aren't we? Now let's go ahead and get into this. Now I was really inspired because I wanted to talk about some of the things the comparisons, and there's a couple of interesting comparisons between the two, which I think makes for a really compelling video. So let's go ahead and get into this, guys. Now, in terms of, we'll start with the performances. How do Jason Momoa and Chris Hemsworth rank as the characters that they portray? And to be honest, they do a fucking fantastic job on nearly every level. I've never given a shit about Aquaman outside of seeing him in the Justice League cartoon. That's about as far as it's ever been for me with Aquaman. And when it came to Thor, I just simply never gave a shit about Thor. Now it hasn't been until they came out in these live action movies that I've actually taken an interest in both of these characters. Look, both of them are very edgy characters. Both of them are very like gung ho to fight characters. And they do a great job of portraying it. Like physically, they were perfectly cast for the role. I think they both exude an interesting feel. And the thing about these two actors is, I think that if you actually switched the roles, had Jason Momoa play Thor and Chris Hemsworth actually play Aquaman, I think it would actually work like that. So in terms of the actual performances of the two main characters, I think these two guys have definitely are like on par. They are on par. Both of them had moments that made me laugh. When it was moments where they were ready to whoop somebody's ass, they sold it. When they just really sold the characters to me. I actually give a shit about both of these characters now. So that's telling you something. So in terms of the performances, I would definitely say that both of these guys have just completely sold me on the characters of Aquaman and Thor. Now let's talk about the characters themselves. I like the characters. Both of them are edgy. Both of them have humor. Both of them have this witty sarcasm to them. Both of them are pretty cool in the interesting and fights and stuff. So I really enjoy the characters. I think the characters have interesting backstories, and both of them do. Like both characters are actually royalty. That's one thing. Thor is the son of Odin, who is pretty much one of the most powerful characters in the universe, and Thor is kind of taking up that mantle, being one of the most powerful characters in the universe. And he does a lot of good things. He's trying to do right for his people. He's facing all of these like straight up just awesome bad guys, and then you got Aquaman here, who and I like the fact that both the characters evolve in their first films. Like when Thor is in the first film, he's kind of this cocky, kind of, if you want to say, jock, like airhead type guy. That's all he cares about is like partying and fights and stuff like that. And then he does develop into a more responsible, more mature, and a more in-depth character. Then you got, of course, Aquaman, which I ought to say Arthur. His name's Arthur Curry. You got Arthur, who is this guy that does not want to have anything. Yes, he does right by people. He helps people out, but he does not want to have anything to do with Atlantis, and it isn't up until the world is threatened, that he actually decides to, okay, I help, but I still don't want to have anything to do with Atlantis. And it's a developing arc for that character because he doesn't feel like he belongs there, as well as he has anger towards them because of what happened to his family and his mother and stuff. So both of these characters have strong developing arcs, and they both uh, just become stronger characters, not physically, but mentally and in their personalities. And they're really interesting and great characters. I can't, this is another one of those, it's like very hard to actually pin down, okay, this is actually like an issue for this character. Like, I actually think both characters were actually, again, pretty likable. I never cared about either one of them, but here we are. At this moment, we actually have a pretty interesting and pretty badass Thor and Aquaman. So, as far as the characters go, I really appreciate them. And let's get a little bit more in depth with the characters. First of all, let's talk about the overall designs. I fucking love the designs. One thing I will say about the Thor design, because I've never liked the Thor design, I think the design is all right. At moments, I feel like it could be better. It feels like it's more lightweight armor, and I kind of feel like I want to see it to be a little bit more heavyweight armor. That's about the biggest nitpick I have about Thor. I really don't like most of his armor sets. Now the ones where he doesn't, where you can see his muscles and stuff, but he still has like the armor covering his abdomen, his chest and stomach and all of that. Yes, that one looks pretty cool because you can see the muscles in his arms and stuff. And I think that's another reason why Jason Momoa kind of sticks out a bit more, make his character look more edgier because you can see more of his muscles and stuff. So, and I can say that towards that's about one of the nitpicks I have with the overall designs with Thor. But like I said, when you have those moments where you can see his biceps and stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, that looks absolutely pretty cool. So, in terms of that, yeah. Now, in terms of abilities, again, it's really hard because they are two different characters in two different universes and two different franchises and everything. But let's get down to it now. Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Okay, look, a lot of people have always joked about Aquaman because of his abilities, but I think that Arthur is like fucking awesome with his abilities in the movie. Not only does he have increased strength and durability, he is, he can actually swim underwater at fucking super speeds. Like, if you love the Man of Steel flight sequences, they do a fantastic job of showing that, but underwater with Aquaman's character and the other characters in the film. But it is freaking awesome just how badass you see this guy just swim underwater. There's one moment, there's two great moments. In fact, there's 100 great moments in the film. Like, not 100, but it's almost every moment you is actually fucking awesome. Like, the dude summoned a fucking army of fishes and all types of sea life to just beat ass, and really enjoyed that. It was really cool. Now I will say this, not in terms of the abilities. Again, I'm a bit mixed. I think the films did a great job of portraying both of their capabilities. So I'm not going to really jump too much down that, but I think as far as the actual characters and the performances of those characters, they are basically they're basically equal to me. Uh, Now let's go into the supporting cast. Both films have just a fantastic fucking cast of not only just great characters, but just a great cast of actors and actresses. They have some of the most names out there to be in these films, and even newer people that you don't really know too much about. You get them in these two movies as well, and they are just done fantastically. They do a great job with their characters. In Aquaman, you have Mira, you have Queen Atlanta, Nuidis Vico, don't know how to say that dude's name. Orm, King Nereus, Thomas Curry. You got Black Manta and his father, and I think that was pretty cool. And on the other side, you got on Thor, you got Jane Foster, you got Loki, Eric Selvig, Sith. Sif, Hemdall, Darcy Lewis, Frigga, his mom, Odin, his dad, Agent Coulson, who's always freaking awesome. So the in terms of the actual, just like if we just break things down, we'll break it down in this. We would say the love interest and the bad guy, and in both films, the bad guy happens to be the brothers. I mean, of course, there are other bad guys in the film, but it's mostly the brother. Now let's talk about Orm versus Loki. I think both of them did a fantastic job. Look, Loki is just gold. Everybody likes Loki. Loki was one of those characters you didn't give a shit about the character until the movie came out. Do you realize how cool he was? And there you go. Now I can actually say I like Orm just as well because he had interesting motivation. In fact, he didn't have interesting motivation. He had motivation. Yes, he was power hungry and he was ruthless, but he did make a point about what things that he said. So that's one of the differences between Loki's character and Orm. I can actually admit that Orm had more of a point than Loki did. Yeah, Loki is like the trickster god and everything, but it's like just because you're the trickster god, does that actually make you like want to like trick people and do stuff like that? I never understood that concept, but Orm actually had an interesting motivation. Now both of them have interesting backstories. You know, Orm is the son of Atlanta, and Aquaman is his is his older brother. Therefore, the birthright of running, Atlantis goes to him. But he don't want his brother to be in the picture, so he's like, okay, you can kind of understand that. And of course, you got Loki, who is actually half ice giant, and he ends up finding out that, but he's like, well, he's like, he's a half giant, a half ice giant who, Odin fucked up the ice giants, and then he ended up taking him as his own. So he's kind of like, I don't want to say a prisoner or anything like that, but he grew up basically with the enemy of his kinfolk. So that was interesting. I will say that seems that's actually a pretty more interesting storyline than what Orm got, but Orm has a better motivation for the things that he does in the film rather than Loki, because at least when you watching Loki, it's Loki seems more of a dick move because all of these people, you've lived with them your entire life, and even though you find out that originally that's not where you're not really from where they are and everything, you still grew up with these people. These people still loved you and shared with you and enjoyed and had adventures with you and stuff. So it does kind of make Loki come off more as a dick in the movie. And Orm is just like a dick to everybody else. But then again, like I said, he does have, I think, a stronger motivation for the things that he does. So as far as the enemies go, and also another enemy that's in the film is Black Manta. And again, I think Black Manta actually has a better motivation for what he does in the film too. Yes, he's a pirate and he kills people, but in the movie, it's established it's kind of, even though he's kind of a dick and everything, he does, he values his family, which is his father, and because of what happens in the film, he goes after Aquaman. And the representation of Black Manta in this movie is fucking awesome. Again, never cared about Black Manta. This movie made him just awesome. Like, yes, I cannot wait to see this guy character in a freaking movie again. I can't wait to check out some of what he's got going on in the freaking comics. He was just straight up badass in this movie. I really enjoyed that. Now let's talk about a little bit more with what Thor's got going on. Okay, we got the Ice Giants, which the Ice Giants were pretty cool. And they were pretty cool. Not really memorable like that, but he was actually a pretty interesting character. I mean, the Ice Giants were pretty like interesting characters. Like, I've never really gotten to the whole mythology of how the worlds, the nine realms works in Thor, and I think it's kind of stupid. But that's just on me. That's just my little thing that I got going on. But um, I would say that in the film, one of the best characters that they showed they put that they put in the film was the Destroyer, which was pretty cool. The sequence where you see him shooting lasers and blowing up a city, and the Warriors 3 and Sith and Thor had to fight it, and it was badass, and stuff was blowing up and shit. So I thought that was pretty cool. I will make this contrast between the Destroyer and Black Manta. They did use a lot of laser vision, and it was fucking shit up, but I did like the Black Manta because it was actually more of a fight. And even though he was kind of, they were kind of beating up on each other. That's what I liked about it. It was more of a fight, so that was pretty cool. But the Destroyer was actually pretty cool. So, guys, in terms of not only the supporting cast of characters and actors and actresses, but the villains in the film, I actually thought they were freaking awesome. Now, I didn't go down the list of the actors and actors, which I'm going to do that now. And Aquaman, these are just the main ones on both sides of the fence. In Aquaman, Amber Heard, never heard of her before. Nicole Kidman, always awesome. William Dafoe, great to see him in a comic book movie again. Patrick Wilson was awesome. Never liked Dolph Lundgren. Actually, kind of liked the guy in the film. Tamara Morrison, I don't know how to say this freaking guy's name, who played Black Manta, but it goes Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I kind of did a good job there. And he got Michael Beach that was in the film, so that's a pretty good cast right there. And on Thor's side again, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, Stellan Skarsgård, Jamie Alexander, Idris Elba, Kate Dennings, Rene Russo, Anthony Hopkins, who's one of my all-time favorite actors, and Clark Gregg. The great, just across the board. So again, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I cannot choose between the two, whether it's the supporting cast or the characters. They're just great all around. But I will say that there was a more interesting dynamic between Thor and Loki than Jason Momoa. No, I'm not gonna say more. I'm saying it's different because in both instances, Arthur and Orm had this like love hate relationship for each other. Like, okay, Arthur ends up finding out he had a brother or whatever. Then cool. So it's like his brother really hates him. But I like, at least in the film, you have some moments where he's like, well, I don't want to kill you. And he actually tries to let him just walk away, which that was an interesting dynamic between the characters. But then you got Loki, who's kind of a dick. And then you got Thor, who's trying to reach out to his brother. He don't want to whoop his brother's ass. He doesn't want to kill his brother. But he's trying to reach him. So I like the dynamics on both sides. I think they're done exceptionally well. Now let's talk about Atlantis versus Asgard in terms of the actual design. Both of them are fucking awesome. I remember when I saw Thor, I was like, when I first saw Asgard, I was like, man, this is magical. It's a great technologically advanced civilization that's a mixture of science and magic, and it works. I love the way it looks. I love the setup of it. The whole world that's like, it's like on a big ass island, basically in the middle of fucking nowhere, and you can fall off the edge, and like the whole presentation of Asgard, I can admit, is not only unique, but it's actually just done it just exceptionally well. Usually, when you think of Asgard, you think of like this old time Viking bullshit that doesn't make any damn sense to be in a damn. That just looks just stupid. I'm sorry, just like somebody thought of this crap at like the 1600s, and it had never evolved. But I can actually say that Asgard, even down to the Rainbow Bridge, just looks fucking amazing. I would give it that. It's one of the best overall designs of a fictional like city that I've seen. Just great. The way it like the light shines off the buildings with this metallic like golden look to it. Just everything about it, Asgard just looks beautiful. But when you see Atlantis and you see how well detailed it is underwater with all of the giant like mushroom buildings and the lights that the buildings emit, just how advanced it is, but it's just underwater. It just looks exceptionally impressive. If there's one thing that rivaled Asgard was definitely Atlantis. It just looked, and the feel and the way you can hear it just looked fucking amazing. Like if you ever looked at coral reef and seen all the mushrooms and weeds and jellyfish and just all this crazy shit that's on it looked like that, but with like one of those highlights, bright lights. It reminds you of like neon lights and stuff. Like I can honestly say that it was just beautiful, just out the ass. Whoever thought of that design not only did a great job of meshing, I guess you could say like actual undersea life with technology, and it came out looking exceptionally well done. You could tell it was a lot of great thought put into it, and it fucking works. So in terms of just the Atlantis and Asgard, and even Atlantis has this like bridge that you have to take to get there to fuck you up. Even that was actually pretty cool because it was like a tunnel of light that you could go in that let you through, and I don't think you can like get out like walk like swim through it. I think you literally had to be like in a car or something to get through it, otherwise it'll fuck you up. But like even that was pretty cool. It was really impressive. I can actually say I think I like that presentation of like the Rainbow Bridge a little bit better than what they had in Thor, because in Thor it was actually a bridge that was made of like this crystal, like, and it looked pretty cool. Maybe if it was like pulsed with energy, or I guess maybe it probably would have, but I don't know. I think, but it's just getting off the subject. Anyways, guys, I'm just letting you know Atlantis and Asgard look fucking awesome. So it's kind of hard for me to just draw or which one looks better. Just trying to be fair. Now, in terms of the story, I will say this. I liked Aquaman's story a little bit more. Yes, they kind of favor each other because in Thor, you know, Loki ends up trying to usurp the throne using the help of the ice giants, which causes the conflict not only on a massive scale concerning Asgard, but also on a personal one because it's, you know, him in his relationship with his family, who he's basically usurping. So I like the story, but I don't, and it's even got a lot of emotional back and forth between Loki and Thor because the movie is about their relationship as much as it is about what's going on in Asgard. So, and I did like that, but I'm not, but I felt it was a little bit more slow paced. And this one, it initially does have like a slow paced start, but when things just get off, it just goes off. The story just gets a bit more interesting. Is more fast paced. I liked a hell of a lot more of what the characters had going on in Aquaman than I did in Thor. I thought the characters were actually a little bit more interesting in Aquaman than in Thor. Now, honestly, the human characters in Thor I like more than most of the Asgardian characters, to be honest. Like the Warriors 3, didn't get two shits about them. Jane Foster and her crew, I thought they were a little bit more interesting characters. So the story, and also I like the fact that both films do take place with a character that's thrown into two worlds. Arthur is thrown into, you know, Earth, the surface world, as well as the underwater world, and then and of course you got Thor, who's in Asgard, but also comes to Earth. So in both of them, there's somewhat of an identity crisis with the characters and what they got going on, and which also leads to their development. So the story does have personality, both of them do, but I think I liked Aquaman's a lot more, especially with how big the stakes were. Yes, the ice giants were coming to fuck up Asgard and everything, fine, but I like the whole threat that there's a war, and then Aquaman has to step up, and he has to go through all of this shit to basically save humanity. Fucking awesome. Really loved it. Thought it was absolutely just badass. Really fucking enjoyed it. So I can honestly say that I like the story. And yes, even though it was a bit convoluted, I didn't care. I actually enjoyed the story a lot better in Aquaman. So guess what? To the story, Aquaman goes. Yes, there was subplots in both of them. Yes, there were romances in both of them. But again, I did. By the end of Aquaman, I was like, I love this fucking movie. I thought the story was great, was interesting, had a lot of great backstory. I had enough backstory. Although I will admit, I wish it had a little bit more backstory towards some of the other characters. But I enjoyed that as well. So Aquaman takes the win for the story. And in terms of action, I'm sorry to say, Aquaman takes the action bit because not only were the fights like badass, the way they were shot and the execution of them with the underwater was done exceptionally well. The fights actually were more memorable. I liked the fight between Arthur and Orm a hell of a lot more than I like the fight between Thor and Loki. Yes, Thor and Loki does have a little bit more of an emotional attachment to it, but as far as like it was fucking awesome, no, Aquaman takes it. The battles that you see in Aquaman, I mean in Thor, okay, they're pretty cool. Aquaman, badass, big scale, everybody's getting their ass kicked. Loved it, loved it. Just some of the best action sequences in like superhero film. I'm sorry, like, and then also I would say that a lot of what Aquaman's action sequences has better than Thor is it has the advantage of because it's underwater, which makes it a hell of a lot more unique, and it takes more attention of these underwater sequences to be fucking awesome than it does actual was maybe flight. But then again, I guess if you do flight as well, it's kind of like that. But I think that because of how unique the fights were underwater and the action sequences were underwater, hell, even the fight sequences with Black Manta, he was fucking shit up was much. Even there was some of the best fights in here. They were short, but they were pretty badass. I don't really get really into the fights like that in Thor and that memorable. Like I said, the only fight that I actually remember from Thor like that I actually thought was pretty cool was the end fight between Loki and Thor. But even that wasn't like yeah, the shit was like the best shit in the damn world. Hell, even in the Avengers they fought, but I don't think it was like the best shit in the world. I think it was alright, but like if I came down with best superhero fights in a comic book movie, that definitely would not be it. So, but in Aquaman, I think the action was again much better. Now, in terms of the actual music, we have Rupert Grayson Williams who did the music for Aquaman, and then we had Patrick Doyle who did the music for Thor. Now, let me check Patrick Doyle has done because I'm sure I've heard some of his music before. Aragon, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which I did like the soundtrack to that film. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I really enjoyed that soundtrack. Not Maggie, I'm sorry. Woo, getting ahead of myself. A lot of the stuff that he's done, I have not seen or heard from. I ain't seen on the anime fee. But I will say I did like the soundtrack, and I did appreciate the soundtrack, and the Emoji Movie. I did like the soundtrack there. I did like the soundtrack in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I did like what I heard in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So he has more. Most of this stuff I hadn't seen, but I really enjoyed what I did see, what I had seen on with the music on Thor. Again, I have to say I did like Aquaman's a little bit more. Um, I found it was a little bit more memorable. Not to mention he has done some when it comes to Rupert Gregson Williams in Aquaman. Let's see what he's done as well. Jack and Jill. Well, I know people say Jack and Jill was shit, but I actually thought it was alright. And both of these guys, don't get me wrong, have got a long filmography. Like with the soundtracks, The Legend of Tarzan. Ain't that the one with the Scars guy I got? Yeah, I did like that one. Thought that was fucking awesome. Wonder Woman, I really did like that soundtrack, and I'm glad that he came back to put a little bit of emphasis on Aquaman. Really loved the Wonder Woman one. Don't care what nobody say. They can kiss it. Do not care. It was great. And now I pronounce it Chucky and Larry. I don't remember that. Over the Hedge, I did like some of what they had, the music that they had in that movie. Thought it was pretty cool, pretty upbeat for some of the sequences that we had. If you ever seen Hannibal, I like Hannibal. Hannibal is one of my favorite films as well, which is cool because we were just talking about Anthony Hopkins and Thor, so we brought him back in Hannibal. So I could say I could say I actually enjoyed that. The Prince of Egypt. I don't know if anybody has said that, but the Prince of Egypt has a great soundtrack. So I can admit that I've enjoyed that one as well too. Now I can even though Patrick Doyle, I haven't seen heard a lot of what he's done. I can actually say that the man does have talent based on the ones that I've had seen. So in terms of that, I can say in the music, which I thought was great on both ends. Yes, they had a lot more different things in each other, but I can say that I enjoyed the music on both ends. So both of them will take the cake on that one. And in terms of direction, I will say both the films had good direction. They had different direction from each one, but I think they had solid direction because the films they had some similarities, but then again, in terms of the narrative, storytelling, the dialogue, which I like the dialogue because of a lot of great sarcasm and witty banter between certain characters. I really enjoyed that. It did balance a lot of action, drama, and humor, which both of them do a fantastic job of. In terms of the pacing, yes, like I've said before, I think Thor is a little bit more slower paced than Aquaman, but there's a reason for that, and it's mostly because they were emphasizing the relationship with the characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So, in all honesty, that can be seen as a pretty good thing. Yes, there are some plot holes in both of them that could have been worked out a little bit better, or could be addressed, or could have been top of the topic that could be done, worked on a little bit better or cut out. And if you want to go towards like lengthwise, I don't really have a problem with the way either one of them is, lengthwise. And also, I think both films do a great job of how well written the characters were. But and so I guess I say in terms of the direction, which next time I might actually take out the direction. But next time we probably talking with someone else. But anyways, I've got to say that this head to head was very intense because these films are good films. They're great comic book films. They have a lot going for them. Between these two, I can honestly say with a straight face and no bullshit that I liked Aquaman more than Thor. I remember watching Thor and saying it was good. Probably not gonna watch it again. Aquaman, it was like, okay, it's good. I'm probably gonna go buy the DVD. But I'm not gonna drag this head to head out any longer. Guys, in the comment section below, let me know which one of these films you thought was better, the first Thor film or Aquaman. Tell me which one of the characters you think is better, Aquaman or Thor, Chris Hemsworth or Jason Momoa. Which one had a better story, better cast, better characters, better visuals, action? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and that notification button to get the best of what we got going on this channel. And stay tuned for more videos because we do upload almost every day, so I'm just gonna say weekly. We upload a lot, so y'all stay tuned for those, and we will definitely catch you guys later. Narik Chase signing out.